So how did I get into window painting? That's a good question. I'll tell you what, I was already painting signs. I started painting signs in 1986. And in 1990, I actually started a sign shop, quit all my jobs and all the jobs that I did have, and I quit and I went into business painting signs. But in 1992, I painted my first window. But prior to that, I found inspiration from a guy named Nick Barber. And once in a while, he'd be featured in Signcraft magazine, which was the trade magazine for signing, like freehand lettering and signs. And he'd be featured in the Signcraft magazine periodically, and I just loved what he did on windows. Just bright, bold letters and really colorful, and I loved them, and I thought, well, that's really, really cool. I want to try that. So there was a small car dealer that I used to paint windshields for the guy every 2 weeks, and he had a small showroom. And so one day I asked him, hey, do you mind if I paint some artwork on your windows? And he accepted my offer, and so that was my first window painting job. I think I painted sail, and I painted lease or something like that. But that was the first window I ever painted in 1992. And that's how I got into window painting. How did I learn my technique? Well, how did I learn my technique? I'll tell you what, I started out painting signs, just regular traditional sign painting back in the 80s. Just learning typefaces and getting to know serif lettering and sans serif and scripts and different things like that. And so, of course, today, most of my window painting is geared towards lettering because I think that's really where my foundation was. But how did I develop my style? They say steal like an artist. I'm always looking for ideas everywhere, and I learn from all kinds of advertising all over the place. I learn from other sign painters especially. I have learned so much from the sign painters that have gone before me, and I love letters. Letters and numbers, for some reason, they're just really cool, and I've always been intrigued by them. Even as a small child, I was always writing my name in strange ways, or I was getting my album covers and I'm writing, the band names and stuff like that. So my inspiration comes from a lot of areas, but after a while, you steal like an artist, you just copy other people's work, and then you just develop your own style after a while, and that's kind of how that worked for me. What's my favorite thing about window painting? Boy, that's a tough one. There's so much about painting windows that I just love, and I've been doing this for 33 years, and I still really enjoy it. It's always fun. I always enjoy it, and I think maybe the number one thing would be that I can just have the freedom to create. Over the years, I've just geared my business, window painting, and my technique to where, I guess, in working with my customers, that they just let me do what I want. I don't really provide a drawing. I've had people ask me for, can you give me a drawing? I just said, well, I really don't do that, but just tell me what you want to say, and that's what I do. Is I just shoot from the hip, and it goes over pretty well. So 99+% of the time, people just trust me, and I can paint whatever I want. I think that's the number one thing I enjoy about this, is like I just have complete creative expression, and it's really worked pretty well for me over the years. So it doesn't mean doing a drawing isn't a good idea. It's just that that's not the way it went for me. And I like that a lot. What's another thing that I like about window painting? Another one of my favorite things? I like that I have the freedom to just move about and make my hours, take time off if I want to, work as late as I want to. Man, there's a lot of freedom with painting windows. And I sometimes wonder why more people haven't jumped in to do it, because it's crazy good money and it's really, really fun, and the freedom of expression and being able to move about is amazing. It's not like sitting in a cubicle someplace after you punch a clock and just have to be at a desk. You know, back in like 1985, 485, I went to commercial art school, and they had us sitting in a desk, and it's like I couldn't sit down. I couldn't sit in a desk. It would drive me nuts. So I think one of the other things that I really, really like about window painting is like I got the freedom of movement. It's great. I'm telling you, I really enjoy that too. Do you have a window painting philosophy? I sure do. My whole philosophy with window painting is basically to get attention. And it's probably the best advertising dollar that a company or a business could spend. Hands down. It's the best thing that they could ever do for their company. Because it commands attention. It forces people to look. And it's an invitation to come in. And it goes under the radar of most cities, so my customers can get extra square footage of signage that the city's usually not going to say anything about. That doesn't mean every city. I've had some cities that I've had some problems with over the years, just a few, just a handful, but window painting is the best thing somebody could do for their business. The most cost-effective thing that they could spend their money on to get more people into their doors. I've had people quit all of their advertising and just painted their windows. Once I showed up and started painting, they dropped all their ads everywhere because they got more bang for their buck from window painting than they did from mailing anything out, any ads in newspapers, any radio stuff, anything. They just painted their windows. And of course, those are the ones that are that get a lot of traffic in front of them, of course. But it's so powerful, and it's sort of a little known secret. And frankly, I don't know why more people don't paint their window. Blows me away. I've offered window painting to people, and they're closed-minded. They have no concept of what this could do for them. It's amazing. So my philosophy is that it gets attention, goes under the radar, and it's the best thing somebody could do for their business, hands down, no matter what. Am I ever worried about competition? Good question. Early on, I was kind of freaked out by the potential that somebody else could get business or take business from me. That's when I was first really getting started back in the 90s. And I was really clipping along pretty good, and I was really nervous about making sure I never told anybody my technique or what I did. And I just wasn't going to reveal any of that because I was really kind of nervous about somebody getting my business. But I really began to develop a reputation, and I started to get really, really busy, and I was taking business from the two other main window painters in the area that I worked around. And then I just got so busy, I didn't even think about it anymore because I just was like, I was the guy pretty much in my city and most of the suburbs, because I work really fast and I always did a nice job, and I was there when I said I was going to be there. And the other guys they didn't do that. They were kind of like your crazy artists that just showed up when they wanted to. But I had kind of a crazy artist thing, but I also knew how to do business, so I got their business. So, but today I'm not worried about competition. I talk about what I do. I'm not afraid to show people, and in fact, that's why I created the Fast Track mini course. So anyway. What is the average time you spend painting a window? Hey, that's a really good question. Let me think for a minute, because I've literally painted thousands and thousands of windows. No joke, thousands. They add up quickly, because if you're, say, painting McDonald's and you do 3 sides, like now hiring, that's 3 at one job, and I could do 6 of those in a day. And so that's a lot of painting in one day. So, I mean, I've literally painted thousands of windows. But what's the average time I'll spend at a job? I've painted windows so fast, like 30 minutes. And I've spent, the longest one I ever painted was 18 hours non-stop. They provided a scissor lift for me, up and down, up and down, up and down, and I took a bumper sticker like this, and I painted it 50 feet by 8 feet tall on this, it was the Polaris corporate office, and I just took their bumper sticker and made it really big, and then I did this giant flag, American flag, and I spent 18 hours on that one. So 30 minutes, 18 hours, but that's unusual, but I did it. I went there, painted it, start to finish, and biggest one I ever did. But I'm going to say my average window job is about 1.5 hours to 3 hours. So on average. Car dealers might be 6 hours. I might spend a whole day at a car dealer. Or Home Depot, if I am working at Home Depot, I might spend 5 hours at one. There were a lot of them that painted everything, all the way across. The Pro desk in the front and everything, and I'd spend 5 hours at a Home Depot alone. Because they'd put a lot of information on there, and I'd just do those back to back. But I'm going to say 1.5 hours to 3 hours. What kind of paint do I prefer? Well, there are a lot of different techniques and a lot of different artists, and it seems that everybody's got their own way of doing things. But for me, I prefer to use a latex base coat with oil-based paint over the top. In fact, like behind me here, this is oil-based color. They do make a water-based color like this too, but I prefer oil-based. I just think it flows better, and I like that. And because of my sign painting, my traditional sign painting background, it's what I always used, and so I'm very comfortable with it. So I really do, I like the oil-based colors, the bright colors, the fluorescent ones is what I use, and that's primarily what I use. It doesn't mean I don't use other latexes and stuff like that over the top coat, but I do prefer the oil-based fluorescent color. Here's a really funny story that happened one time when I was painting at a pawn shop. I had a guy that used to paint with me. I would lay down the color or the base coat, and he would come back after me and color it, and then I would outline and we would be out of there. But so the two of us, we were painting at this pawn shop one day, and he's on the left side of the door and I'm on the right side of the door, and we're doing stuff, and these 3 young guys came out of the pawn shop with a big cart, and they wheeled it away, and then a few minutes later they came back with this giant TV. It was like just huge. It was one of them old TVs that's really deep too. It's just this huge massive thing, and these 3 guys had the cart with a giant TV on it. And so they're wheeling it towards the front door while my guy and I were painting, and they hit the curb, and the TV just went boom right on the front of the glass. And we're looking at that, and we had to do everything we could to not laugh, and we just really couldn't hold it in, because these guys just stood there looking at the TV on the ground like, oh no, that didn't just happen. And yeah, really, we see a lot of funny stuff when we're out painting windows, and we sure did. That was hilarious, though. They just, they're bringing this pawn shop a big TV, and they scratch up the glass. It was kind of funny, but I see a lot of funny things while I'm painting windows. Believe me, I got stories. Here's another funny story where I misspelled something on a window. I went to paint a Vietnamese restaurant, and we had a little bit of difficulty communicating because of different languages. And so I'm painting at this Vietnamese restaurant, and this guy gives me like this book to paint on the window, menu stuff and all this, and it's in like Vietnamese writing, which that alone is a challenge. But I did it, and I'm painting this stuff, and I spent, I don't know how much time it was. This was a long time ago, but I painted the information on the menu, or on the window for the menu, and I was done and got it all done and whatever else he had. And I went to go get the manager or the owner, and he came out, and he's standing there, and he's reading what I did for the menu, and I'm over there going, well, I hope I did it all right. And so I'm looking at him, and he had this look on his face like something's wrong. And I'm like, well, what's up? And apparently in this language that I was painting on the window, it had like upside down letters and dots and all this other stuff. And he said, no, don't worry, that's wrong. No, that's not this or whatever. And I'm like, well, what is it? And he said, well, you're missing a dot over here, and I really don't even know what it said, because it was in Vietnamese. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it could have said a shoe with cheese on it, and then when you put the dot on there, it was like egg foo young or something like that. So anyways, that was another misspelled thing, or I missed something. But yeah, that happens sometimes. Do you listen to music while you're painting windows? That's a really good question. In fact, absolutely. I love music. I always have. Even since I was really small, I've always loved music. And boy, music is great for inspiration. But what do I listen to? Well, I'm kind of back from the 80s. I love hair bands, hair metal, Van Halen, Rat, stuff like that. I like that a lot. However, I do like jazz quite a bit, and I like funk because I'm from Minneapolis. I really have an affinity for Prince and The Time and the Twin Town sound, and definitely have spent a lot of time listening to some good funk. And but also I listen to a lot of podcasts. It's not uncommon for me to have some earbuds in it, or some whatever, headphones on, and I'm listening to podcasts, because while I'm on a ladder all day, I like to get educated too. So in fact, that's mostly what I do, but I do listen to the music, but mostly I'm getting educated. So literally, I know a lot of stuff because I like to listen to information and get educated. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that's what I listen to while I'm out painting windows. Do people bother me while I'm painting windows? I've seen a lot over the years. Different areas have different situations. I've noticed that there are some regions that there's people that are very talkative, and then there's some like cities or areas that nobody says a word to you. It's really weird. I've had people buy me coffee. They'll be seeing me paint in the wintertime and they'll bring me a coffee. And that's pretty cool. But am I bothered while I'm painting windows? You know, I get a lot of people that just kind of smile and they're being really friendly and they're like, huh, I can't even draw a stick man. And of course you can draw a stick man, but that's small talk and they just are being friendly. And that's one of them that I get a lot. People are asking if I'm hiring. That happens. People like to tell me that their great-grandfather was a sign painter. And I mean, and I'm very social and I like to talk to people. So way early on in my Instagram page, I did a video about the top 10 things people say to a window painter when you're painting windows. And look for that on my Instagram page. But yeah, people talk to me. Some people just watch. They're just intrigued. And I think there's a lot of people right now that like to watch artists. I really think after the 2020 event, a lot of people got into art and started paying attention to it. And a lot of people started doing art back in 2020. So, yeah, I get a lot of people talking to me when they walk by, and usually just a quip or, you know, how's it going? Oh, you must have a fun job. I don't think it's a job, though. It's just an art venture. Yeah, a lot of people have asked me if I'm hiring while I'm painting windows. I'm serious. Lots of people over the years will walk by and go, hey, are you hiring? They're looking at what I'm doing and it looks like it's a lot of fun. So they're like, hey, do you need some help? I even had a guy one time come up and say, give me your brush. Give me your brush. I want to try it. And he just was like pushing his personality onto me. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, I'm doing this. Shoot, get away. That happens too. But there have been a lot of people over the years that have said, hey, are you hiring? You need some help? So yeah, I get approached occasionally, somebody looking for work. Do you do a lot of seasonal windows? Good question. Actually not. I actually don't do too many seasonal windows. I think it's a trend today. I definitely see like an uprise in seasonal window painting. I know in the areas that I primarily painted, mostly all over Minnesota and some Wisconsin and Iowa, I didn't really see a lot, but there were people that would just come out of the woods and paint like season's greetings on a bunch of locations, and they were really simple, nothing complicated, but they would do season's greetings or maybe hearts for Valentine's Day. But me personally, I don't do a ton of seasonal windows. I've never really marketed myself for that. I do something that I call Christmas card windows, and I've done a lot of ribbons and like Christmas balls and fun things like that. I've definitely done some, but it's not a lot. Most of mine is lettering, trying to put a message out there. So I'm not just only doing pumpkins and trees and seasonal stuff. That stuff's really cool, and I have a lot of admiration for those people that are doing really cool seasonal work. And I'm telling you, it seems like the skill level is going up fast. There's some really good artists out there. But for me, don't do a lot. I do some on occasion, but again, mine's mostly lettering. Do I ever look at other artists' work? Of course I do. I'm always looking at other artists because I learn from them. There are so many talented people out there. In fact, on Instagram, there are so many talented artists that I like to watch a bunch of them because I'm always learning from them. Will I do everything that I see other people do? No, not necessarily, but it's like, oh, that's a pretty cool technique, or that's a really neat typeface, or that's really neat how you did that. Are you kidding? I always look at other artists. In fact, I have a tremendous amount of respect for other artists too. And I know for a fact that I'm not like the best window painter out there. There's people that have different techniques than me, and they serve a purpose for what they're doing. And I marvel at a lot of the work that's out there. Man, there are some really good artists painting windows these days. And like I said, we talked about competition. I don't really think there is competition out there because we're all different. We have a different style, a different flavor. So it's not a big deal. But I really do learn from other artists all the time. I'm looking at them. I want to see what they're doing. And if I see a good idea, I might just put it into what I'm doing. And yeah, I learn from other artists for sure. So do I ever misspell words on the window? Oh yeah, I have misspelled some words. And I'll tell you a really funny one. I was painting at a very large car dealer. It was a Hyundai dealer. And the windows behind me, I know the letters were at least this large, maybe even larger, because they were up on the top, above, right under their overhang. And they wanted the words, "Peace of Mind Warranty." And so I painted huge letters right across the top of this whole car dealer. "Peace of Mind Warranty." Giant job. I was there all day on like a 10-foot ladder. It was major. Anyway, I painted "Peace of Mind Warranty." And about 6 months later, I get a phone call. They go, "Hey, Jason, I'm going to need you out here because you made a mistake on the windows." And this is 6 months later. And I'm thinking to myself, what? What are you talking about? And so he goes, "Well, just come on, we'll fix it. And then I think we want to do something else." But I went out there and I painted "Peace of Mind Warranty," except I spelled peace, P-I-E-C-E, instead of P-E-A-C-E. And I thought that was pretty funny because it was 6 months later and nobody ever said anything about it. I never heard a word about it. So do I ever spell things wrong? Yeah, I do. But I'm quick to fix it if I am told about it. One day I was sitting with the service manager at a very large Ford dealer in Minnesota, and we hit it off. We just seemed to click with one another, and we were just laughing and having a good time. But for some reason, the idea of subliminal messages came up, and so I told him, I said, "Well, let's put some subliminal messages in your window." And he thought that was a great idea. And so I'm just going to leave you hanging on this one, and I'm not going to tell you what we did, but it was really, really funny. We did. I put some subliminal messages in their service department windows. And because really, if you think about it, we really do, our subconscious mind doesn't miss anything. And so that's why advertising is such a big deal. And you're looking at subliminal messages all the time. But anyways, this manager and I had a good time talking about it. So we put some in his window. And did it get more attention? I don't know. Maybe we'll never know. Do I ever run out of ideas? No. No. The reason being is there's ideas everywhere, and when you do get into what I am as a sign painter, as a window painter, you're always looking at options. You're looking at other people's work. I'm noticing all the advertising out there. There's always a new idea on the horizon. I could be walking through Walmart and walk by their little lottery ticket thing and like all the different ideas in their lottery tickets. Or at the convenience store, you'll be standing there and there'll be like candy wrappers and there's all these ideas and cartoons and letter styles and colors. No, you don't really run out of ideas. So my answer to that question is no, I don't run out of ideas. How do you typically do your layouts? That's a good question, because I actually sort of just fly by the seat of my pants, so to speak. When I get to a job, I don't have a clue what I'm going to say yet. And I powwow with the manager or the owner, and we determine what they want to say. Now, I encourage my customers to use as few words as possible. 1 to 5 words max. However, I'll do more if they want more information on there, but I want to get attention and bring people in. And so few words, in my view, is best. But how do I do my layouts? Well, I've done small jobs to giant ones, and I've kind of developed a formula that it's sort of intuitive. I don't think about it too much, and I just have done so many signs that I just create when I get there. And there's sort of primary copy and secondary copy. Like, now open would be primary, and then the secondary would be like a little bit smaller, 8 to close, or 8 to 4, or 8 a.m. to midnight, or that would be the secondary copy. So there's primary copy and secondary copy, and that's the way I look at my information I want to put on the window. Again, I like fewer words, and that makes things a lot easier. And then at that point, you can put a graphic in there, like a little picture or an underline, or I love exclamation points. It's sort of a trademark that I have. I've used it for years, and so I use it in a lot of places. So I'll add an exclamation point because I'm trying to get attention. So for me, there's really no formula to the layouts, but there sort of is. It's just like an intuitive thing, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I'm telling you, there were seasons where, like, it seemed every single day there was some crazy thing that happened around us while we're painting windows, or situations with folks, or drunk people coming around. Or one time somebody yelled from down the block to me and said, "Hey, yo, yo, yo," and they came over and they were like, "Hey, you want to buy a watch? You want to buy a gold chain?" And I'm like, "No." He goes, "It ain't going to hurt you to look." I'm like, "Well, I don't want to look." And I'm telling you, there were times and seasons where just crazy stuff happened every single day. And so my painter and I, we were talking about this, and it was around the time when, like, reality TV shows became really, really popular, and they would have these shows where they'd be followed around with cameras and just situational stuff. I'm sure it's all scripted anyway, but anyways, we thought about, hey, we should have like a reality TV show for window painters, because there was so much crazy stuff we were encountering on the regular. So yeah, it's not a dull moment ever when you're painting windows. It's really fun and exciting, actually, and different parts of town are different. There's some wild ones, and then there's some mild ones. So yeah, it gets pretty exciting out there. What's the craziest thing I've ever experienced out painting windows? Well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm telling you, when you're painting at pawn shops, you see a lot of strange things. Literally, you do. but I'm painting on, say, the left side of the door, and I'm painting there, and all of a sudden the door whips open, and some guy comes out, and he just starts taking a pee. I couldn't believe my eyes, but he did. It's like he just couldn't hold it anymore, and he's just going to do it right there, right outside the front door. So what's the craziest thing I've ever seen? I'm telling you, I've mentioned before that we should have probably had a camera crew following us for a reality TV show. And I'm telling you, it's not a dull moment ever painting windows, and especially at like pawn shops, or like I said, there are some areas that are mild and some that are wild. What are your favorite colors to use? Oh, that's a good question. Well, I love fluorescent colors. I do. I just love fluorescent paint. For some reason, even when I was small, anything that was fluorescent posters, I had them. All right, I'd be collecting anything fluorescent when I was young, and I'm still working with it today. I love fluorescent color for some reason. Just pops. I love it. But combinations, I really like, well, I'm going to say early on when I was painting windows, I started just experimenting with everything, and I used to try to figure out the combinations that worked the best, like yellow and pink, or yellow and green, or green and orange, or blue and yellow. All these different combinations, I would try to figure it out. But I figured out that in a sign, let's say for like a hiring sign, if you're using 3 colors, that's perfect, with a little bit of white. I like to add a little bit of white to my signs. It just gives it a little extra. But my work is what it is. It's usually lettering and getting attention with words. And sometimes I'll add a graphic, like a cup of coffee or a donut on a window for, say, a donut shop or something like that. And graphics are nice too. But I love fluorescent colors. Always have, still do. Don't get bored with them. So there you go. What do you think the main purpose for window painting is? That's a great question. And I have a great answer. Attention. That's right, attention. That's the main purpose. Hey, look over here, something's going on. I look at it as an invitation. An invitation. That's what it is. It's like, come on in. Welcome. That's what I believe window painting is for. Attention. And that is the way I look at it when I'm talking to my customers. It's like, how can I help you get people into your doors? It's all about attention. And I think that's why I really love fluorescent colors on the window, because they command attention. And literally, almost a quarter mile away, somebody comes around the corner, they're going to see the fluorescent paint. They're going to see that fluorescent paint right away, and it will be the only thing that they see in the mall, because that's the brightest thing. So it's commanding attention. So what do I think the purpose of windows is? That's it right there. Attention. Why did you create the window painting course? Well, that's a good question. I'll tell you what, I created the Fast Track Mini course because I'm at this place now where I think it's time for me to share my knowledge. I've hit the mentor age, so to speak. I'm 60 years old, and I've been painting windows for over 30 years, and I know my craft, and now it's time to teach others. And I feel like what I have learned over the years is very, very valuable, and now I want to spread it out and share my knowledge. And as with any apprenticeship out there, knowledge is very, very valuable. And I would consider myself an expert with the way I paint and developed my style, and I'm very good at it, and I want to share it with other people so that they can become very, very good at it too. I didn't have a teacher. I had people that inspired me. I mentioned in other videos that I learned, my main inspiration was Nick Barber out of California. Phenomenal work. And I had purchased his watercolor window splash book years ago, and I really loved his style and what he did. I loved that, and that's what hooked me, so to speak. But there's been other great window painters over the years. Scott Campbell is definitely a foundational one. He's so good with cartoons and animated stuff. He's just phenomenal. And I think everybody knows about Scott Campbell. But boy, there's a lot of really good window artists today that are out there too. But I had to learn on my own. So I just had to look around, figure it out, figure out what paint works, what doesn't work. I mean, I had some botches, believe me. I had things that didn't work that I had to pivot and try different things. And I figured it out and mastered it. And that's what I did, is I created the Fast Track mini course. And I really want to help other people get good at it too, because it's almost like a little known secret. It's really good money. It's super fun and super satisfying, and there's so much freedom in it. So those are the reasons why I want to help other people do it. It's time for me to be a mentor to other people. So I really want to do that. And so if you're interested, get the Fast Track mini course. I'd love to help you.